Welcome back to the live desk. Young, brainwashed, and trained to kill. Pakistani security forces rescuing nearly a dozen boys who they say were kidnapped by the Taliban and told it was their religious duty to become suicide bombers. The boys seen here ranging in age from just 9 years old to 15. They say they're not alone. There are hundreds more just like them on the battlefield, ready to kill. Joining us live is former Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense and Heritage Foundation Senior Fellow Peter Brooks. Mr. Brooks, thanks for being here.
Good to be with you.
My first question for you is how these kids are likely acquired. I mean, is it against the parents' will? Are they kidnapped? Do they go willingly in that culture?
All of the above. The fact of the matter is that they are recruited away, they're seduced away, they're taken from their parents, and they're put into these schools where they do get, or the parents are given promises that the children will be given an education and room and board. Remember, Pakistan is a very poor country. It spends probably the least in that part of the world on national education. And in some cases, the parents are willing to allow their children to go to madrasas, these religious schools, so the kids will get a meal and maybe some education, even if it's only learning the lines of the Quran. So there's a whole host of ways the Taliban is luring these children away from their families.
You know, Mr. Brooks, I have to imagine if you're one of our U.S. military people out there and you see a child on the battlefield, it's very jarring. What does this tell you? What does it indicate about who we're up against over there?
Well, it's very exemplary of the amount of evil, the evil we're against when we're dealing with the Taliban and Al-Qaeda and others. I mean, you know, and the other thing that's interesting about the children is that these are often fly under the radar of the suspicion of security forces. You don't normally think about a child as young as 9 years old being a suicide bomber. And same with women. So this is one of their newest tactics, and they keep evolving these things. And the worst of all, perhaps, Harris, is the fact that they think the Pakistani army thinks as many as 1,500 children may be among this cadre. 1,500 children may be among this cadre who have been recruited to be suicide bombers.
And Mr. Brooks, what would their life be like inside these camps? I mean, if they're in the battlefield position, they're also dying along adults in the military or in the enemy's forces, I should say.
Yeah.
What's life like for these kids?
Well, you know, I don't really know. We need to know more about this. My sense is that the camps are not at the front line of the battle. They're away from the battlefield because that's where training takes place. Just like for our soldiers in the previous report, they're being trained in Texas before they deploy overseas to defend us against the Taliban and Al-Qaeda and others. So, I mean, in this sense, they're probably away. They may be in regular schools. They may be the government may not know what's really going on in those schools. And the fact